Jeremy Pilkington watched the plate on which he had just finished eating. He had lost count of the number of times he had eaten alone. Each night, as he sat at the table, he felt the house grow larger, each corner expanding into more space, creating dark, unfillable voids. He went into the master bedroom and sat on his recliner. He stared at the ceiling until tears streamed down his face, dripping onto his khakis, creating a miniature puddle absorbed by the fibers. Jeremy didn't know what depression was like, but he thought what he was feeling now was close. But it was more than that. He knew it was fear. It was growing every day, turning into something nefarious, dark, and inexplicable. It was worse when she was home. He avoided her in every possible way. He tried to pretend she didn't exist. And Jeremy prayed that one day she would never come home, but she was always there. Today was no exception. It was 3:34 p.m. He heard those words again, the ones that froze his soul. "Hi, Dad." He always kept the padlock on the shed well oiled. He was careful to protect it from rain and snow. Stephen Bloom knew all about protecting things from the elements and learned how to play with them. He was fascinated when he first saw fireworks and wanted to know how they worked. Stephen was 9 when he finally got his hands on a box of fireworks. His older brother, Patrick, gave them to him and made him swear not to tell his parents. "It'll be the last thing you ever get from me if you do," he warned. Stephen looked up to his brother. Patrick was his hero, and he admired him for protecting him no matter what. Everything changed in the summer of '68. Stephen was 12. The brothers were heading home after a day at Lake Brennan. It was almost 8 p.m. The sun had already begun to set. The sky was tinted with pinks and purples. "That's pretty," Patrick said quietly as they both surveyed the expanse above them. "You want some chocolate?" he asked his younger brother. "Of course," Stephen replied with a smile. Patrick handed him a $1 bill. They were about half a block from the corner store. The bill slipped out of Stephen's hand as Patrick crossed the street. It was a white Mustang. It was as if it fell from the sky. It just appeared, and then Patrick was gone, erased from this world. Stephen would never forget the screech of the tires. Patrick's life ended instantly, and, in many ways, so did Stephen's. He always looked over his shoulder before he put the key in the lock. It was dark, but he didn't want to risk anyone seeing him enter the shed. His suspicions were only in his mind. Mr. Bloom was the cheerful chemistry teacher at Mistport High School, the ever-helpful soul who volunteered at the Salvation Army during the summer, who mowed Mrs. Jensen's lawn because her hip had given out and her husband had died years before. Yes, Mr. Bloom was squeaky clean, except for his fingernails. There was no way to get that dirt out. He had once scrubbed them with a Brillo pad until they were raw, the blood mixing with the black, indelible dirt. And then there was the shed. Over the years, it became a living organ for Stephen, like a beating heart that only he could hear. It held his joy and sorrow, his hope and his despair. It was, in fact, his beating heart. When he made the discovery, he became the happiest man in Mistport, and the most miserable. He quietly entered the shed, locked the wooden doors from the inside, and went down into the darkness. Jack didn't sleep that night. He went over the details of what he had seen countless times. Thoughts consumed him in class, and he was unable to concentrate. It was Friday, and that was a relief. But he still had biology with Sarah. But what was Sarah? Jack considered many possibilities. An alien? A demon? Shapeshifter? He had never believed in any of them. But after last night, he wasn't so sure anymore. The bell rang and he slowly made his way to biology. He glanced at the door before he entered. Sarah wasn't there. He exhaled deeply. Relief washed over him. He felt the pressure in his chest dissipate. Everyone settled in and took their seats. Sarah was nowhere in sight. Jack opened his notebook and began writing down the date on a clean page. He lifted his head to look at the board, and out of the corner of his eye he saw someone enter the classroom. It was Sarah. His hands went cold. A heavy lump formed in his throat and his heart raced. She took her seat without apologizing for being late. Jack stared. He searched for signs of bruising on her scalp, those ugly scars floating above her ears, but he couldn't see anything. Her skin was flawless, and for a moment, Jack had forgotten everything he had seen the night before. Her hands were delicate, her hair untouched, her lips pink and shiny from her chapstick. The moment vanished when she looked up and saw him staring at her. Jack quickly turned his eyes back to the books on his desk. "Hey, Jack," she whispered. He slowly lifted his eyes to meet hers, big, brown, and inviting. Yeah, he replied nervously. "There's a big party at my house tonight. My dad's gone for the weekend and everyone's going to be there." "Where's your dad going?" were the first words out of his mouth. "Some work thing. Who cares? So, are you coming?" "Sure, I guess." He wanted to say no, but she was Sarah, the most popular girl in school, his fantasy, the beauty by which all other girls were measured. Then he remembered the dangling arms and outstretched legs, the cadaverous skin. He shuddered. Still, he figured if everyone was going to be there, why not?